Friday or Saturday, depending on where you're joining us from in the world. I'm Kyler Cheatham, your host here for the Confluential Live, and as usual, I am joined by Adam Cheatham, the CEO here at the Confluential. And today we're talking about something that we're seeing not only in national and global headlines around kind of big consulting, but also something we see day to day with our partners or our clients in the marketplace. And that is, what is the role of a consultant and what do you really expect from them? We're going to focus on obviously technology consultants today, as that's where we kind of operate. But I think there's lots to be said in that technology bubble, whether it's business consultancies, finance consultancies, change management consultancies. So we kind of want to, take the veil of uncertainty, the land of shadows, as I call it, off of what you actually need to be expecting from your consultants and how you ensure you're getting your ROI, which is their job, right? Their job there to help you and support to make money or achieve your goals. So with that, I will let Adam introduce himself in just a second here. But as a reminder, you can let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to see and hear from your perspective as well. We have these conversations and really put our time towards this because it's something that we see go wrong in the marketplace because nobody talks about it. And so that's what we're here to do, is kind of give some air to that conversation. A lot of that comes from you guys and what you think about these situations as well. So I encourage you, wherever you're joining us from, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of those different places, that you're really able to join in the comments. We can see them up here. We'll bring them up on stage. I already see some Arizona folks. I always like, good for the West Coast for, early bird gets the worm. We had some really early ones from the West Coast on Bite Size last week. So way to go out there. So with that, Adam, will you please introduce yourself and the Confluential?
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name's Adam Cheatham. I'm the CEO of the Confluential. Definitely interested in this particular topic of conversation, largely because it becomes a discussion of what should you expect from a consultant, right? They are so artful in telling you things that go wrong and how much they can fix the problem that they created or how much they may have created a problem for you, but you still owe them money. And that for us at the Confluential, it's about executing well and about earning our clients' trust and holding those senses of integrity high. And not everybody operates that way. And so we want to talk about what you should expect, and just as much in saying so, what you can expect from us, whether it's on this podcast or in any other type of engagement. So I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. And so let's kind of break this down in a couple different levels, right? I think the first thing is to kind of just address the elephant in the room when we've seen these kind of big shock and awe headlines about how Deloitte defrauded the Australian government, right, over giving them an AI report that was a legal document and affected welfare policy for them. They, cited all of these really fake, they actually were fake, and quoted scholars at the University of Sydney in quotes that they never wrote. Like they referenced them in footnotes and resources work they never did. So we've kind of seen two threads there: the integration of AI into consulting, and kind of I'm going to call it the complete and utter lack of accountability from big consulting. So can you take big consulting and then take AI into consulting in those two threads?
Okay, we'll give it a go. So first of all, from a perspective of the bigger consulting firms, that they're just like anybody else. They run a business, right? And they have a business model. It should not surprise us that their business model is to gain a foothold and have a large team of consultants on your project, right? How do you think they got to be big consulting firms? I've been in rooms where a consulting firm has suggested that their implementation is going to cost $500 million with a straight face. And what blows my mind about that is that person in that room knows that that $500 million quote is going to go up. They know this, right? So that's their goal. Their goal is to take that and create a floor. I don't know that that's particularly anything other than people acting how you can expect them to act, right? But I think that at the end of the day, from a big consulting firm perspective, you have to understand their business model and understand
Mhm.
whether or not that business model fits and works for you. They are going to do a lot of work. A lot of people are going to do a lot of work. Some of that work is going to be useful. Some of that work is going to be wasteful. And somewhere in the middle on this bell curve is going to be a ton of hours that are worked and billed that will move the needle at least a little. Probably not much more than that. But that large consulting firm setup is designed to say we have a couple of experts and a whole bunch of folks who aren't experts who are going to bill you for it.
Mhm.
And in that case, I think that the challenge really is that they're designed to protect themselves
Mhm.
and take advantage of you, right? That's it's I, I've seen this happen many, many times in that those large consulting firms, many of them are designed to make it easy to get your money and make it really hard to give it back. And it's just that way. It's just the way that those firms are. So we shouldn't expect them to act differently than they're designed to act. Um, so that's part one. From a perspective of AI, this is something that I think is it hasn't found its way into the space where it ought to work, how it ought to
Mhm.
work, what is high integrity and what is not.
Mhm.
With the case of the Deloitte article, they basically said, yeah, well, we used some AI. It's like, what do you mean you used some AI? Your AI hallucinated all over a legal document, right?
Exactly. What are you talking about?
There, you need to know what you're doing, and you need to know what level of accuracy you require. This is a legal document, right? There are firms in the United States right now and attorneys in the United States who are being debarred, which means in the US they're losing their legal license to practice law because they have used AI to create court documents that refer to cases that don't exist. Right? That's a bad scenario. That is just trying to frame this in a way that doesn't come off as too cynical. But at the end of the day, I think the thing that's most important in all of this is that there are people that are good at their jobs in every industry. There are people that are bad at their jobs in every industry. This is a sheer fact of life. And in doing this is everything from contractors and tradesmen to folks who run cashiers to folks who run warehouses, doctors, lawyers, consultants, all in all professions, there are people that are good at their job and bad at their job. Your responsibility as somebody who's going to hire a consultant is to be keen to find the difference because there are bad consultants. There are consultants that aren't ethical. There are consultants that aren't smart. There are consultants that aren't driven. And all of these things are going to create problems for you if you're not able to identify them quickly. And in the large consulting firms, you're playing the law of averages, right? I would rather be in a scenario where I can find a consultant that is going to be high quality and assume that I'm going to get top dollar quality from a small group who are going to execute well than to say, well, I'll get some positive and some negative, that the good will outweigh the bad. The money bags will outweigh both, is what will happen. So, I guess I'm on a little bit of a soapbox on this because I'm dealing with these types of scenarios in a number of cases.
Yeah.
with clients right now. So this is something that particularly hits home for
Triggering.
me.
Yeah.
But anyway, to come back to the AI side of things before I stop my little
Mhm.
rambling motion here. AI is still a tool that not everybody understands how to use. Not very
Right.
many people understand how to use. And the lazy folks are using it to do their work for them as opposed to using it to enable them to do better work. And that's a problem that we got to figure out as a consulting industry in general, or you will find more scenarios where you're hiring a consultant who's using the free version of ChatGPT to ask questions about your company to the internet and now ChatGPT owns that question forever. And it isn't uncommon as much as people aren't going to say that this isn't happening to them. It's not uncommon. I can promise you right now that a consultant is copying and pasting sensitive information about your company into a free version of ChatGPT that it now uses to train the rest of the world. So that's hard to
Boom.
figure out. Anyway, I don't know how you figure out which consultants are using AI badly and which consultants are not. I don't think the industry knows the answer to that right now.
Yeah, I think there kind of has to be a watch unless you're like very, very well trained in ChatGPT and you can see kind of those nuances. But if they're good at it, they can get those out and still be utilizing certain information. So I also say in the contracting, there needs to be a line item in there about what is your use of AI and being able to understand that, especially when we're talking about open AI to the open internet. So just a little pause before we get super passionate about this because this is our life's work, right? And nothing makes us more upset when we see a client being taken advantage of by someone that claims to be helping their business. And so that's why these
Yeah.
answers can be long-winded. I see so many of these good questions in the chat here. So definitely keep dropping them. I'll get to them kind of one by one, but I wanted to get that idea on the table. And something that's often a misunderstanding about what we do, we often sit aside Accenture, Deloitte, PwC, right, on these types of bigger technology projects. Do we walk in and say, hey, I hate you? No, that would be super weird and unprofessional, right? We go in and we make sure that we're representing what the client needs, right? We understand their agenda in the room just as we do with software vendors. We don't think they're there to trick you. We just have to make sure that you understand what you're paying for and you're getting what you deserve. Because can they do great work? Oh, for sure. They have some very talented people that work for them that have been at that, especially their executive team. Very, very impressive people. So what we need to make sure is they're quite clear on what they will be delivering, and we're not interested in the fluffy, those
Yeah.
fluff deliverables that aren't adding value. That's where we sit in that chair. Is it a super weird, awkward meeting? Not usually, unless we need to do a kind of little check right there. And sometimes it can get a little weird, but that's what we're there to do, get weird, right? On behalf of the client. We do that often with vendors too, in a
Yeah.
professional way, right? You want
Right.
to
Well, that's like, and so I'll give you an example. We're working with a client right now whose software vendor has come back and said that piece of scope is going to cost more money. And they said, well, what do you mean that's supposed to cost more? That's going to cost more money. You told us that these were all included. And like, you know what? You're right. We did have somebody that said that those were all included. That person was not telling you the truth, and they have since been let go. They no longer work for this organization. And so it's going to cost you more money. And I couldn't help but just scream on the inside when literally the guy says, the cost is the cost. Regardless of what it is, it's going to cost what it's going to cost. Almost like you're going to pay us one way or another. Like, I
better
don't know
you
about
than
that,
me in that meeting.
right?
Better
So,
you than me.
like at the end of the day, that was they're outright saying, you know what? During the sales cycle, we told you something that wasn't true, and you're going to pay for that because the cost is the cost. That I don't know if I believe that. That's absolute. malarkey. We'll say we'll try to keep the swearing out of it before us get too fired up. But that's not acceptable by any means. Is that acceptable? You lied to me, is what happened. And so that's a good indicator of a bad consultant, right? Lying about it. That's one of the questions. How do you know the difference? But in this same scenario, then they come and say, here's how much it's going to cost. Here's what we need a change order for. And so we need a change order for this piece of scope. We have phase one, we have phase two. And then somebody says, well, how do we know phase two isn't going to cost any more money? And they say, well, we've looked at we're confident that phase two wouldn't cost any more money. And as I'm listening to them say this live in a conversation, this consultant say, I'm confident phase two will not cost more money. They are also saying the discovery for phase two is not complete. And so I asked them, I said, well, discovery for phase one is what identified this additional cost, right? Yes. Well, how can you possibly tell me that phase two isn't going to cost us more money if phase two discovery is not complete? And like, well, we've seen the requirements, we're comfortable with this. And I stopped and I said, I'm pretty certain that you were comfortable with the cost of phase one before discovery was complete. You gave us a cost on that. This is going to be, I'm comfortable with this cost, and you were wrong. And now what you're trying to tell us is that you think we should go back and ask for more money for phase one, and trust that you're right this time before you complete discovery for phase two. That it won't cost more money. We want to go back and ask for money one time.
Oh, he was like on a roll too. It's so when
The
I
internet's so mad at me that I just say,
when I talked about Deloitte on a live stream last night, I was kicked off. I'm just saying that they own the internet. Anywho, keep going. You were on
so at the end of the day, how can you tell me that you know what phase two is going to cost and that you're comfortable with that if you haven't completed the discovery that identified the cost increases in phase one? You can't. So let's do the discovery so that we can ask for money one time. We want to ask for money one time. And what they don't want to have happen is that if they have the whole ask for money, this is a lose-lose scenario for them, because right now they're asking for a small increase in, well, not small, it's a significant increase in money, but they want to ask for just this much so that later when they ask for the second amount that it's going to increase, it seems smaller. And we're already pot committed. We've already done all of this work. Come on, guys. It's a little bit more, as opposed to ask for the true amount all at once and have it all out on the page and say, I need X number of dollars more to do all of this. So if they had to put that out on the table, this is a lose-lose scenario where we are at the very least saying, I want you to commit to a cost for the end of this project. They don't want to do that. I also want you to go through the effort of identifying it so that you can't ask for more money later. Right? So let's put it all in one. And what that does that's not a benefit to them also is if the number is higher, then they had to ask for more money, and then we got to get that approved, and the likelihood of a larger number is always less likely of getting approved no matter what it is, right? I don't know if this is going to get approved or not. I can't say that. But what I can say is that a larger number is always less likely to get approved than a smaller number, right? So that's a bad scenario if they identify a greater cost. Or if they do identify that, yes, everything actually is in scope, then they can't ask for that money later because we come back and we say, we asked you to do this, you said that it's not the case, and you need to do your job. It makes them be more creative in trying to figure out what it is additional scope. And that's not fair either. So these are scenarios where this consulting team is not acting in a way that is at least competently considering what the whole picture looks like. And that to answer the question, how do you tell? What you need to be able to do is two things. You need to be able to know that your consultant sees all the bits and pieces, right? If you're trying to if you don't think your consultant sees any more than just one small part, then when their field of vision does increase, they will identify something different. So the whole concept of I only have one job, one small thing as a consultant is going to lead to challenges somewhere, right? Because at least somebody else has to do the other part. So seeing the strategic view of the whole picture, you need a consultant that can do that. The second thing that you need to do is you need to get a vibe for your consultant being good at that, right? Like and this is a little bit harder, but this is where you have to trust your own judgment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit contradictory in the fact that you're hiring a consultant because you tend to hire consultants to do things that they're experts in, but you know people. You've worked with people your whole career. You've
Mm-hmm.
hired lots of people your whole career, and you have sat in front of somebody that you have said, whatever is going on in this conversation doesn't feel quite right to me.
Mm-hmm.
That piece right there that you're trying to put your thumb on when somebody says, these guys just felt better to me. I can't tell you exactly why, but those guys felt a little bit off. Trust that. That's an important piece of the puzzle. And then at least you walk into it saying you used all of your tools and instincts at your disposal to make a decision. And if you make a bad one, you can identify it quickly, hopefully, and move on, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to just setting it and forgetting it and hoping that it works.
Absolutely. And I think that's the piece that last little nugget that you touched on of trust your own instincts is so difficult to navigate, like you mentioned. The thing that I would say is if it feels wrong, it is. If something's like, this isn't how I expected this to be, that needs a little bit more discovery, right? Whether
Mhm.
that's having a conversation with them and saying, hey, I thought that this was going to be what you delivered, and them saying, well, and they're, a professional pivoter over here on you. They're giving you politician speak. That's showing you who they are, right?
Yeah.
What
What
we
is
need
that?
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I said what you need to be looking at is not getting enchanted, but that is why they're a consultant. That is why they work at the Big Four, because they are good at that, right? So looking at them and saying, I expected you to deliver A, and you did not deliver A. And I'm wondering what that really looks like, or it wasn't to the standards that I expected. Make sure that you have a resolution on that. It's not, oh, I misunderstood, and let them gaslight you into being like, oh, I just don't understand how this works. No, this is your consultant. Do you go out and when someone mows your lawn and they mowed half of it, being like, oh, I just didn't understand how this worked, right? No, you would go out and say, I'm sorry, I paid you to mow the full lawn and you only mowed half of the lawn. So we need to have a resolution there, which ends with you mowing the full lawn, right? This is your support system for your project.
Yeah. Well, I think that what drives me the most nuts about all of this is it's just the absolute candor with which people say, "Well, it's just going to cost more money."
Mhm.
Like, this whole I got my foot in the door and that's all I needed to do. We can worry about the change orders later. Consultants say that. I've been in rooms where consultants will just get a cost that they can accept and we'll worry about the change orders later. You got to be kidding me. If you this is like that same concept of if you got to ask, if you're at a restaurant that doesn't have menu prices and you got to ask what the cost of it is, you're in the wrong restaurant, right? Like at the end of the day, if you got to sit there and ask your consultant how much is it going to cost and they're giving you a number that doesn't seem right, you're probably correct. The chances that it actually costs less than you thought it was going to are pretty low. And then when they find out they're charging you less than you thought it was going to, guess what they're going to do, right? So this for us, though, my approach is always to simply say, look, if you want to get it done right, this is what it looks like. This is what that cost is. Just is this way, right? But what we can do now, so I can say it costs this much, and maybe that number is a high number, maybe it's a low number, whatever. It costs this much to do it, and this is how I expect to do that. This is what I expect to do in it. And then sometimes folks say, right, but with what you're saying you expect to do, I need more than that, right? And okay, well then this is how
Mhm.
I would add those things and how much
Mhm.
those things reducible cost, right? When you ask for somebody to add more and the cost doesn't go up, you're being lied to. It
Mhm.
will go up somewhere.
Mhm.
The other side of it that drives me nuts is the concept of over pitching something. So I come
Mhm.
out and I say, this is how much it's going to cost. I'm not here to inflate your project cost by any means. So this is how much it's going to cost. This is how we're going to approach it. They say that number is bigger than I need it to be. And so my answer isn't going to be, okay, well then I'll just reduce the number. That's not, that's also not going to work for anybody out there, because that number will go back up to the number that it was eventually if the scope doesn't change, right? So the conversation that you have in that scenario when you say, look, if it's, and I'm going to pick random numbers, right? If it was $100,000 and then somebody says, right, but I can really, like, I was really only hoping to spend 50, then you say, okay, this is how if you want, if we're going to charge you $50,000 for something, this is what you're going to get.
This looks like an incomplete thought or a transcript fragment.
Are you using AI for this conversation?
No, I have my phone down. Google is just to see this Deloitte.
I'm telling you, Deloitte is stalking us. They're stalking our
Turn
phones.
it off.
I
Oh, that's
sound
so
like your
weird.
dad when it comes to Alexa. Oh, the government's
Whoa,
listening.
whoa. No, but at the end of the day, so if that's what you want to spend, let me tell you what I can do with that. All right, I can do these things. What's important to also hear when they say that out of their mouth, and if they don't offer it, you need to ask it, what are you not going to do? Right? What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to give you $100,000 worth of work for 50, right? What I am going to do is I'm going to give you $50,000 worth of value with these following things. That's what I'm going to do. And those are the types of conversations that you should be having in scoping conversations before you sign on a contract and those types of things. Because at the end of the day, I'll give you another great example. And I just have a client who really was in this space of trying to buy a new ERP. They bought this new ERP from this vendor who said, I can do all of these things. And guess what? I specialize in your industry and I have a software package that's been on the market for decades. It's been serving your specific industry needs for a long time. People love it. It's all over the place. It's your competitors, this, that, and the other. All right, cool. We're going to buy that. What they didn't say out loud is that's a different version. That was before we moved to the cloud. That's the on-prem version. I'm not going to tell you that all of those clients, and this software companies are notorious for this, consultants are notorious for this in general, and saying, I did something totally unrelated for another company. I built their on-premise system with my IP. And what I'm not telling you is that you're going to be the first one on that new IP in the cloud that I've rewritten from scratch and have no idea if it works. They're not saying that out. That all of their client logo slide had all of these clients on them that were not at all relevant. Some of them weren't even using the old ERP. They're using some small module of it. And this is another thing I love about what consultants do is they're going to tell you that they have experience with all of these other companies that do all of these things. And what they're actually telling you is I have somebody on my staff that once upon a time did a small project for that company. I worked for a company who insisted that they had experience with Samsonite. And they did a project, I kid you not, I shit you not, did a project with that company 25 years ago.
Awesome.
And one small project. But because it's a recognizable logo, it's on there. Which is one of the things that I love about what we do. Like, I'm going to tell you, we got experience in all these spaces. Be fair with you about what we have done for those companies and what we haven't done for those companies. Give you an idea of what actually we can and can't do. And then let you poke holes in it, right? That's
for sure.
your job. It's my job to give you the opportunity to poke holes in it. If you don't feel like you can do that, you're not working with the right team. And then you can say, well, what can you do and what can't you do? And I say, well, I can't do this. I've done it here. Similar, not the same. Nobody's the same as you, but I've done it here. as opposed to, look at all of these companies I've done exactly the same thing for. No, every project's different. You haven't done the exact same thing for anybody, because the exact same thing doesn't exist.
Exactly. And if they're saying that, that's very telling, right? Like
Yeah.
in that situation, especially in the modern business systems architecture, nothing is the same. I don't think, it's, and if it is, that's a problem. That's your competitive advantage in that type of thing. It might not be this vendor's competitive advantage, but it's your job, especially in the modern, architecture, to really make sure that you have a competitive advantage in there. So if they're saying that, that would worry me in that type of thing. So
well, this is why we spend a lot of time on these types of conversations talking about, don't expect somebody to be somebody they're not, right? Don't expect the Big Four to be anything other than a high ticket organization that's designed to bill you as much as they can to hopefully one day go live on a software program that might work. Honestly, they don't. Would it be in their best interest if they got you live on that program? Yes, of course. It's always in everybody's best interest to go. Are they worried if they don't? No, they're not. You want to know why? Because they have a clause in their contract that says something along the lines of, we do not warrant that our work is of any sense of high quality. We simply will say that we will do work, and if it's good, good for you. If it's not, sucks for you. But we aren't going to say that if you take our advice and hire us, that you are going to get positive results. That's in every consulting contract. Now, to be fair, it's in ours as well. I'll be fair about that. But from that perspective, it's not about, look, I'm just here to give you advice so that you'll pay me for it. It's more of a, look, I'm going to give you advice and you can take it or you cannot. And that's up to you to execute on it. And if you want some help with that, I will do that. I'm not here to point the finger at you. I am here to say, here's how I can help. And this is another one of those scenarios that you can watch out for with consultants, which is oriented towards, how do I know? When a consultant gives you an answer and says, this is what I recommend you do, and you say, no, I'm not going to do that, watch how they respond. Many bad consultants will become offended, almost as if they are entitled to you doing what it is they say you should do. And a lot of them will bully you into doing it their way. And you know what? It's not their problem if it doesn't work. It's yours. And if you say, I took your advice and it didn't work, and against my own better judgment, they say, well, then you shouldn't have taken my advice. You still owe me that money, though. Just like Deloitte is doing to
exactly.
in
They
Australia
won't
right
refund
now.
them. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
they won't refund that. Yeah,
You
you know what? You're right. None of those cases existed in that report. That's 100. And you know what? You're right. All of those quotes, those direct quotes of all those industry experts, those are all false. But that doesn't mean that we're going to pay you back.
Yeah, and they will refund you some of it, I guess, kind of. But their like core argument is that their recommendations remain the same. Like, what do you mean your recommendation based on fake data remains the same?
That you made up?
Well, let me give you a recommendation. I recommend that you go to therapy for a long time.
I don't know. It's like those are the types of things. And this is one of my favorite questions to ask in reference calls. And you should conduct reference calls. Get reference calls. Call our references. We'll give you
Yeah,
references.
absolutely.
I'm happy to do it. How did they respond to a problem? And what happened? How did they help you with that? And what you should hear is, well, they helped us analyze what the problem was, what the cause was, and how to solve it in a way that was collaborative and proactive. It shouldn't be we just, it became a problem that we had to spend more money on. That's the wrong answer. It may cost more money, right? I don't want to convey that unknown unknowns don't exist, right? Every project has something that comes up. It's kind of nobody saw that coming, right? That's fine. It happens. But how that problem is solved is the key to it. How do they partner with you? And another thing to never tell your consultants, especially if you don't know whether or not they're trustworthy, is don't tell them that it's going to cost as much as it costs, because then it's going to cost more. It just will simply be that. It just is that way. And that's how consultants will treat you. You'll become an open pocketbook.
Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, that is very similar for vendors as well. So, you know, you need to understand that's why we see so many people go to the vendor or the consultant and be like, hey, write my requirements. It's like, okay, no. You have to, a consultant can absolutely help you define your requirements because they're complicated, especially in, again, the modern system architecture. We've got systems over here. We got systems over here. We got data over here. We got, you know, all of these different things. Having a consultant help you with that is totally fine, but they are your requirements, my friend. So if you do not know what they are and you're going into these conversations with these vendors or these consultants, they'll define them for you. And then all of a sudden somebody else has the keys to your business and you're like, wait, how did that even happen? And that is a huge, huge red flag. So let's talk about moving forward. I see all
Let's
of
talk some shit.
Friday morning. We got our coffee, we got our tea. So when you are, you know, a business and you're considering choosing a consultant to work with, whether it's, you know, an ERP project, whether it's an AI project, whether it's anything like that, what are some things that even before you call them in the research phase, you need to be doing to ensure that you're setting yourself up for success?
Ask yourself why you want to hire a consultant, right? Can you do this? Can you do this yourself? Do you have time for it? Do you have the capacity for it? Do you have the skill set for it, right? Those are all types of things that are good answers for why would I hire a consultant, right? Is this a competency I want to have? Nobody wants to know how to implement an ERP system. Nobody wants to do that, right? So if that's not a skill set that you want to develop in-house and you understand what that means for you, then you start thinking about consultants, right? Is this something I'm capable of developing in-house, right? Do we have the skill sets for this? Do we have the experts in this to be able to pull this off? Ask that question. And if you do, then do they have the capacity for it? And if they don't, then okay, it could cost me this much to do it now versus that much to do it when that person frees up. How do I create those types of scenarios? Always think about what you're gonna get out of it and how you should expect a consulting firm to respond as well, right? Don't ask people to be something that they're not, right? Don't be surprised when you get a big bill from a Big Four consulting firm, right? Don't be surprised when you get low quality from.
I'm telling you, he's talking about big consultants. Damn it,
Deloitte, they're all over it. So don't be surprised by these things. Don't, like, when people show you who they are, believe them, right? Which is fine. This is all over the internet. Everybody knows what to expect. And I'm not saying that the Big Four consulting firms should never be hired by somebody again.
Absolutely not.
That's fine. I got no problem with that. But what I am saying is don't be surprised when you are treated like they treat everybody else. That's fine. It just is what it is. That's their business model. So those are the things that I would think about before hiring a consultant. And then what is it that we're expecting to get? What is it we're expecting to gain? And in our company, we start looking at things like, how do we improve profitability for our clients? How do we improve employee engagement and employee fulfillment for our clients? How do we reduce risk? Those are the types of things that we focus on, and things that we believe are measurable and achievable in the hard work that people should do. Look for those types of things. Don't just look at the cost, look at the benefit. And if your consulting firm is going to give you benefits that sound a little bit wonky, then don't believe them. If they sound weird to you, they probably are. At the end of the day, one of my favorite conversations that I've ever had with the CFO was one of the hardest, which was, don't come and tell me that this ERP has an ROI. It doesn't. It doesn't have an ROI because it's a cost, it's a lead balloon, it's a concrete cinder block, whatever you want to call it. It's a ball and chain that we need to operate. It's going to cost us money. It's going to increase all of our costs. It is going to improve none of our revenue, but we can't do business without it. So we'll move on from that. And so figure that out. You know, is this something that you expect to have a return, and where does it expect to come? Where do you expect it to come from? Because at the end of the day, you should know what the benefits are going to be. And in that scenario, for them, it was a risk management thing. And if we are in this and we don't implement a new ERP, our business may fail completely. So how do you say what's our return on investment? Well, our return on investment is 100% of our revenue at some point, right? I don't know if that's going to really qualify for any financial statement, but you know, it's
Depends on if, I mean, it sounds great at a all team meeting for sure, but it's certainly, you know, the IRS, if you're trying to do, again, check out, shameless plug here, our CapEx versus OpEx conversation last week, right? And you can see what you can write off and what you can't write off, but you can't write off that. Okay. So just so you know.
Just there's so much in this. And here's another good thing that you got to watch out for. The consultants are going to tell you. Too many people like to ask the question, and they think it's like the silver bullet question.
Oh.
What percentage of your projects go over time and over budget? 0. The answer is 0. You know why? Because there's always a change order. All of those numbers are based on the last estimated cost, which is usually based on what we've built to date plus more. So we're never over budget. We're never over timeline because we always submit our change orders. That's not fair. That's misrepresentation. They're misrepresenting the idea that they asked for a project.
Again, I just don't know, you guys. I hear him though in his office, and he's got that tone, which I can tell he's on the phone with the
Project that
vendors.
was going to take.
When he has that tone, that I'm like, this call, he's definitely talking to another consultant or vendor because he gets this like a no bullshit type of tone. I was just telling them, I can hear you through the wall, so I know this is good. So continue. Yeah.
What happens when you ask how many of your projects have gone over time and over budget is they tell you based on the last change order. What they're not telling you is that the original estimate for timeline and budget was $1 million over 1 year. And now the budget is $15 million over 6 years. And we're still on time and on budget. Because I had 9 change orders that added that $14 million in many extra years, right? So that's not fair. It's not a legitimate way of doing business. You should have estimated it at least close to properly up front, right? How do you like? That's one of the things that drives me nuts. It's taken us 6 years to do a project that was supposed to take 18 months. Either somebody royally screwed up, or somebody lied to you, or both. And in a lot of cases, you're going to get saddled with the incompetency of somebody else, and it's going to come out of left field. And then the answer, well, it's going to cost what it's going to cost.
I still can't believe that person's, I mean, I've never heard a vendor say that, and I would have come across the table, but you're much more.
I've heard it many times. Like, what are you for real? It's going to cost us. Well, you know, the cost is the cost.
I guess I've heard them say that message, but never in those many words. Usually they're like, well, what you're paying for is, you know, this.
Yeah, usually you get some fluffy version of that. Which
yeah, I've definitely heard them dance around that like a ballroom dancer, but, you know, I've never heard them say, well, it's going to cost what it's going to cost.
The audacity.
Yeah, right? Like, I've never quite heard that. So,
how long? So if I said something nasty about Deloitte, how long do you think it will be before my internet connection?
I mean, I'm telling you, I really do. So I have the same theory. Obviously, I could easily be in a cult. Like, I could be that person that's like, you know, pulled into that and be like, yeah, because conspiracy theories, like, that is my jam. But every time I post about SAP on TikTok, because it gets my views are like 0, especially when it's like an SAP failure or something. It's gotten way better as we've gotten more of a following and a community on there, but it used to be like 0. And I was like, I know when I say the word SAP, because if I talk about vendors, I tag them. They have every right to know what I'm saying. Honestly, I hope that they hear what's happening in the marketplace with their systems. That's my goal. But now, even last night when I was talking about Deloitte with my Australian colleague, I'll tell you, I was cut off every single time. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
I think at the end of the day, when you're hiring a consultant, we believe that you should be able to expect quality execution. And if you don't, then you get what you pay for, right? The people that bought Ford Pintos in the 80s knew what they were getting. They were not paying a lot of money for a hunk of junk, right? It's call it what it is, right? There's a reason I don't drive my MG every day, because I know what it is. I know that as soon as I count on it, it's going to leave me stranded. It's just is what it is. It's told me this over decades of experience with it. I know these things about it. I'm not going to ask it to be something that it's not. So understand who you're hiring, who you're working with, and what it is you should expect. And that's on you, right? When you are able to say, I know what I should expect, and I'm willing to pay for what I should expect. And if you expect low quality garbage, you're going to pay for low quality garbage, and that's up to you, right? That's fine. But if you're going to expect high quality execution and you get a low price tag, those aren't matched, right? So know what you expect to get and hold people accountable to that. And that's what I would say that you should do. All in all, at the end of the day, if you're paying top dollar and you're not getting top quality, call it out. If you're paying pennies and you're getting poor quality, then don't be upset that you didn't get what you paid for, which is fine. Not everybody needs that type of consulting, right? And sometimes you just need a butt in a chair, and that's fine. And sometimes you need somebody who can really do high-powered work. If that's what you need, give us a call. We can do that type of stuff. We'd rather do that type of stuff than do the trash work, because we're here to provide quality.
Yeah. No trash available. So, well, thank you for this great conversation. Thank you to the audience. I think these are all, pulling these questions, we'll pull them in. They're all great questions to just simply ask in this discovery process. It's difficult, and that's very valid to find that quote unquote partner, whether you're dealing with a consultant or you're dealing with a vendor. It's not easy because the odds are stacked against you already. In this subscription service, in this con artist versus consulting, right? We're trying to tell you what you need to look for in that type of relationship, because it should be a partnership, not telling you how to run your business. That's not helpful whatsoever. You already know how to run your business. You just might need some expertise in something that you don't do every single day. And that's a big lift for your team, like a technology implementation. And that's something that we are really passionate about, obviously, in making sure that you get what you pay for. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. We do go live every Friday for a little while, just to talk about what we see in the marketplace. If you have questions about this or you want any more information, a lot of times I will have people message me after the live and be like, hey, that was right up my alley. I have a few specific questions. Always happy to answer those. So let me know. And then also, we will be live on TikTok later today with our AI readiness group. So if you want to head over there, it's at Kyler Cheatham. You can kind of see the behind the scenes of what we do within our Solutions Review AI readiness group. So if you want more information on that, you can head over to my profile and see how to join that group. So with that, thank you.
I'll jump in one last second. If you need if you want to ask somebody directly, this is the vibe that I'm getting. Give us a shout, man. I'm not.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll tell you straight up that you know what that does sound like it's a little bit weird, or you know what that sounds legit to me, right? We've been in a lot of scenarios where yeah, that's a real tough nut to crack, and it's it makes sense that it came out of left field, and it makes sense that this is going that way, and that's we'll tell you the difference between that and yeah, dude, you're getting taken advantage of. Then they are trying to pull wool over your eyes on it, because that's not fair. You should have somebody on your side, and I don't need to bill you for those types of opinions. I'll give you that opinion straight up. We're gonna have a 20-minute conversation. I'll give you some thoughts on it, and from there, you can do what it is you like.
Absolutely. So perfect. And I mean, it's a great opportunity to ask us, because, if we wanted to be at a big consulting firm, that's where we would be, right? And we are not, because we were committed to doing things differently. And to give that value to our community is the biggest thing that we can possibly do, as far as fulfillment on our end. So definitely reach out. You can reach us in the DMs, or it's Kyler at theconfluential.com or Adam at theconfluential.com. You can reach us that way too. But we'll see you next week, my friend.